Hello, we're going to go ahead and get started. This video is about how to set up an assessment rubric for doing assessment in one of your classes. Now we're gonna set it up completely from scratch. We're going to go from taking the blank rubrics that you are given on Blackboard and seeing how to fill these in and how to do it. Now these are, let me pull up the screen here. No, not that. No, not that. Here we go. So as far as setting it up, first couple of things, and by the way, this handout that I have here will be posted also. It'll probably be sent to you too by the department chair. Anyway, the assessments for fall 2024, they should be completed by the end of break. And the new semester starts around January 21st, so somewhere in there. Be sure to keep all the completed assignments that you use for the assessment. It's very important we have those, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But make sure you keep those. That's the most important thing, is keeping those, because we can always do the rubrics. If we have the data, we can always do the rubrics. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I need to get a blank rubric. Now, I have it in the number 2 here, but I'm pulling mine up first because just to let you know what I'm doing. This is for a class I taught like a year or so ago. No, it's 2 years, 2 years ago, I guess it is almost. And this is accounting 210, accounting 403. Now there is no rubric made for this because this is not one of the classes they assess, but I'm gonna use it as if we were assessing it. So this is like a brand new class that, or a class that you don't have a working rubric from last year or anything from. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go get the learning objectives, okay, and all right, so accounting, so there's an accounting course and I got learning objectives here. All right, so let me go get the blank rubric. Get the blank. Sorry. Get the blank rubric. And we're going to go to Blackboard. And organizations, Heller College Business Faculty Resource, and then new assessment rubrics fall 2024. Okay, so let's see where that is. Okay, so here we go. Here's my Blackboard. Organizations. Heller College of Business, all faculty. I don't know why they got these weird things up here in top first. Annoying. Anyway, so we go in here and let's go to new assessment rubrics. Okay, now this is going to be for the accounting, and we'll say the master's in accounting. So I'm going to go down here and try to find a content rubric. Oh, here's standard content rubrics. And by the way, if you don't have yours up here, I'm actually looking around for these to get some of these up here. But the standard, let's see, save that. Hey, and I'm in a Windows 7 computer. And that groaning you hear in the background is the power supply going on. I got to put it in and switch this over to Windows 10. There's another computer here too. So if you see me getting angry at the mouse, it's because I'm probably using the wrong one. Okay, let's save it here. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can open that. Okay, now here's some of the, this is a kind of abbreviated assessment criteria. This is an older one, but this is basically for the whole the accounting department. This was the what they had stuck in here. So anyway, what we're going to do is convert this. Now this content knowledge rubric MSA program, and put in the course. The course I have is, because it's for the master's program, I'm going to put in the accounting 403, or yeah, 403. And you see these are kind of the general assessment scale. We're going to have a more exact scale on that following page. And well, I'll tell you why we do this in a second. But anyway, these are the criteria that we had at the time, and we'll worry about those later. Okay, so I got the rubric, and what we're going to do is figure out what we want for the learning objectives. That'll be here. And then what assignments we're going to use to get it to do these over here. And assignment description will be down here. I'm not going to really have one of those, but you will, whatever assignment you or assignments you choose, you can put in there. Okay, so let's go ahead. So we got our assessment rubric. Let's go to the course syllabus. The course syllabus. Now here are the learning objectives. And I'm going to copy these into, you can try copying them straight into the rubric, but as I'm sure you guys know, Excel is a little bit picky about cutting and pasting stuff into it. So I'm going to try to clean it up a little bit. You don't have to do this. I generally like this. It just saves time for me usually. So these are the course specific content. This is for the course, the accounting 210-403. And I'm going to paste it into my rubric. Let's see here. I might just do these individually. Might be quicker. Okay, so I'm going to paste this in. There's my first one. My second one. Show you guys how to cut and paste. Very important skill. I teach this to all my students too. I'm fascinated by it. Okay. I don't know if I can link these or not. Okay, so I'm going to kind of abbreviate these up here for the criteria. So let's see here, to apply fundamental concepts and fundamental accounting principles. Let's just put fundamental concepts. Oops. Okay, second one, demonstrate an understanding steps of the accounting cycle and the 4 financial statements. Okay, so let's say accounting cycle. Oops. And financial statements. And the last one is record transactions in accordance with generally accepted. So I'm going to say record transactions. Okay, so these are kind of what we're going to. These are the for the course itself. These are basically the student learning outcomes that we want, and we're going to see if there's assignment parts that we can fit in here that we can assess, and how will we assess them. Okay, so we got our 3 assessment criteria. Okay, let's go back here. Copy and paste is just did this. I jumped to number 3. I'm not sure you're playing along at home. Okay. Choose the course assignment or multiple course assignments that may be used to assess the student learning objectives. The assignment may be exams, presentations, final papers, homework, quizzes. Okay, so you just have to find something that'll fit these. Now, if you didn't assign it already, if you don't have it already set up that your class, I'm going to use this, it doesn't matter. You can actually, if you can find an assignment, and a lot of times in Blackboard or throughout the semester, you'll have something that you can use to So don't worry about, oh, gee, I didn't plan for this. You don't need to. Whatever you have done in the class, it probably fits into those objectives that are in the syllabus. So whatever you have you can use to test those, that's all you need. So don't worry if you don't already have it set up and gee, I don't have this assignment set up for the, rubric and all that. You don't need to. Whatever assignments you have that they can fit into the thing, be fine. Okay, a couple important things. First is save all the data that you are going to use. These are the artifacts. So the completed assignments, whatever they are, the papers, if you collect the papers in class, files, turn into Blackboard, data from like if you gave quizzes or something in Blackboard, that you can save that. Save all that stuff, video files, if it's for presentations or something like that. Those video files can be used for assessment. So save all those. If you turn in, if you have papers, there's nothing wrong with keeping the hard copies. You may also just want to scan them so you don't lugging them around and storing them is kind of a pain. But if you're on campus anyways, you can usually scan them into the copy machines and have them emailed or however they want to do that. Anyway, so papers collected. Okay, so again, these are artifacts, and these artifacts are one of the things that we got dinged on for our assessment was we didn't keep the artifacts, and that's what they want. They want to know. They want basically the data that we use to make our decisions and our recommendations. That the people can go back and look at the data, and also sometimes they'll have more than one person do the actual assessment. Just for what they call inter-rater I forget what it's called, but to make sure that the raters are doing something similar to it. Okay, another thing is you do not need to cover all of the learning objectives in the course. Some of these courses will have 10 learning objectives. You don't have to cover all. Pick the important ones. Pick the ones that are relevant to the class. There's usually 2 or 3 that are the ones that you really hit hard in the class. And those are really the only things you generally need to look at. And also, one of the things we have to be aware of is like any data, this is collecting data for trying to make decisions. If you have very thin data, if you have data that is not very, you only have 1 or 2 things or something, you run into the problem of you don't want to make a decision based on very little data, data that there's no way that you could get some kind of a good representation for it. So anyway, generally the big things are that whatever it is the class mostly focuses on, whatever those learning objectives are, those are probably the ones you're going to want to test. The big stuff. The other stuff, not that it's not important, it's just not as important for the whole class as far as what you're assessing. So, and again, the more, like any kind of testing, the more data you have, the better, and the more robust it is, the better. Okay, now, here's the hard part. Finding out what assignments will be used. Now, again, you do not have to have this already set up. Whatever you have in your class that will match up with the student learning objectives, you can use that for your assessment. So trying to figure out which one of those they are is it can be a little bit tricky. Ideally, if you have like a kind of a large project or something at the end, or the final exam, if it's comprehensive, you try to hit as many of them as you can. That's usually a good idea. But if you don't, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with taking homework problem number 7, homework problem number 9, and homework problem number 16 and using those. You can piecemeal it together, to get a good representation of what we need to make recommendations. Now, again, but I want to make something clear about the recommendations too. The recommendations are not about the teacher. They're not about you and your class. It's about the program as a whole. So if there's a problem with these learning objectives, that students aren't getting it, it's not about you teaching it. It's about what can we do as a department to make these improvements. It's not about the individual teachers. So again, it's not a self assessment at all. It's our assessment of the department, and those are the recommendations we make are for the department. Okay, so let's take a look at accounting 211 204 example, student learning objective number 2. Let me go back my rubric. Okay, so my student. So number 2 was demonstrate an understanding of steps to the accounting cycle and the basic elements of the 4 financial statements. Okay, so the 4 financial statements, if we're doing that in class, that's probably going to be a pretty big thing. It takes some time to do the financial statements, especially things like the statement of cash flow and that. So that's a pretty big thing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to focus on the second one here. There's nothing wrong with doing the other ones too, but so the second one is the assessment criteria. So that's what I'm going to focus on here. So we will take a look at that. Oops. I'm going to get rid of this so I don't keep clicking. I don't need it. No. Okay. All right. So I decided I'm going to use student learning objective number 2, and I decided I'm going to focus on these financial statements, at least for this part of the rubric. Now, there's 4 financial statements, and some of them are fairly easy, and some of them are not. So lumping them all 4 of them together in assessment may be a little bit tricky. It may not really give us very much information. For instance, I can tell you that in accounting, the statement of cash flows is one that's always crazy. Yeah, so what we want to do is kind of do maybe break these up into the 4 different the 4 different financial statements. So income statement, changes in equity statement, or statement of it changes in, I don't know, however they say that nowadays, balance sheet, and statement of cash flow. So these are the 4 statements, the 4 financial statements, and we're going to do it. And I just made up this problem X. Believe me, there's an actual problem in all of these textbooks that have, but whatever it is, I didn't look it up, but there will be something in there. And by the way, if it's not, if we did these 4 financial statements, we did them separately in different homework problems or on tests or something, we can use that too instead. You know, if you did problem, like I say, did problem 7 or 9 or whatever that covered these, you can do it. Okay, so what we're going to do is put these into our rubric. And I think I'm going to alter yeah, let me do this first. So I'm going to take problem X and put that in, telling people which part of the assignment we're doing. So I'm going to say problem X. Use a real problem when you're doing this, but say problem X, and I'm going to say student has an understanding of the income statement. Oops, there we go. And I just realized I got to move this down. Let's adjust it. Okay, now here's the thing. So I have these different the assessment criteria. These will be the student learning objectives. This is a little bit of different wording. This is what it was before. I'll have to go back and change these. I'm going to change them right now. Student learning objectives. I'll update the Okay, so the accounting finance cycle. So problem X, we demonstrate that we have an understanding of the income statement. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use the same student learning objective for several of these. So I'm going to insert a row, insert a row, insert a row, because I got 4 of these, 4 financial statements. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this down. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the next one. So this is the understanding of the income statement. Let's spread this out a little bit. So let's go to this next one. X. Might just type that in. Let's just speed it up a little bit here. Okay, so changes in equity statement. Okay, let's go to the next one. Student has an understanding of the balance sheet. Copy it, pasting it. And the last one. Student has an understanding of the statement of cash flows. Okay. Oops. Okay, here we go. We can redo this one if it would work. We did. Okay, so you'll notice that for this student learning objective, clean this up a little bit. So for the student learning objective, this is learning objective number 2. I have 4 different tests I'm going to do. Do they know how to do the income statement? Do they know how to do the changes in equity? Do they know how to do the balance sheet? Do they know the statement of cash flow? So this is what I'm going to, I'm going to test them on these things. This is what I'm going to test what the student's knowledge is, and we do 3 different levels here. We have does not meet expectations. This is obviously the worst. Meets expectations and exceeds expectations. Okay, so we have these 3. So they either get a 1, 2, or 3. Okay, now it is possible that we, that we don't have. That one's not showing. I deleted it. Hold on 1 second. I think I deleted it. Shoot. Anyway. So anyway, so we're going to do this accounting financial cycle. We're going to do this, and these are what we're going to test it. Okay, so let's go back to our. So the first part of the handout. What problems are we going to use, and are we going to use to test Swiss parts? And again, these are more in detail than it's not the overall for the for the program. We're testing these to the individual student learning outcomes. Now, by the way, if you wanted to see here, let's do one more thing. If you want to see the new goals for each of the things here, look like this. And I'm going to click on the Master of Science Accounting. Yeah, it's not letting me open it. Oh, demo video, okay. So here's the master goals for accounting. So if you wanted to see whether these objectives, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they match up somewhere in here. Knowledge over financial reporting standards. So this will be reporting the financial statements. Okay, yeah. So this would go along with the first goal, financial accounting and reporting standards. Okay, so that's kind of where this would fit in as far as where these goals would fit in the accounting cycle and financial statements. So they do match up. These are going to be more specific, and we're going to test them more specifically for our case here. Okay, so let's take a look at our how are we going to do it? So the criteria, we have to kind of set up, and these are sort of like grading notes. Like how do you, what is a one? What is a two? What is a three? What, how are you making these determinations? And these criteria, they can either be general or specific. And I've got, both of them here. So general criterias are simply that the student does not demonstrate the understanding of the financial statement. So this is a judgment call. These are making a professional judgment on them. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. If you think about it, everything we do in assessment is judgment. What student outcomes we're looking for, what student learning, goals they are, objectives. Those are professional judgment. What assignments we use, that's professional judgment. You cannot get away that there's judgment involved here, but it is professional, and we're not saying it's biased or anything like that, but it's a professional judgment, and all of this is so. There's nothing wrong with general criteria that says they demonstrate an understanding of the financial statements. You can also make it more specific. So specific criteria would be something like student makes 3 or more errors in the financial statement. So if they make 3 errors or more, that does not meet expectations. So you can go through and count the errors, and if they make 3 or more errors, they do not meet the expectations. Students that make 1 or 2 errors, they meet the expectation. Okay, they probably generally get it. Maybe they have something out of place, something mislabeled or something like that, but they generally get it. So this would be a number 2 that they meet expectations based on this criteria that we're using. And this shouldn't say does. This should say exceeds. And this should say meets, not does meets. I'll fix this. Student makes no errors. So specific criteria would be that 3 errors, you're out. 2 errors, 1 or 2 errors, it meets expectations, and student makes no errors in the financial statements. That would be a 3. Okay, so let's see what we do with those. So let's go back to our. Generally, I have these on the other page. Now, there are basic ones up here, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But on the following page, we have detailed ones, and we can put these in. These are not our goals. 1 second. Okay. So the first one is the apply the fundamental concepts. Second one is one we actually want. This is the one we're going to use quite a bit. This one. We got 4 of these. You probably don't need to copy those down, but I'm going to do it just because I feel like it. Okay, number 3. Actually, I'm going to delete all of this. Our third one was identify we're not going to do much with that. But so anyway, these are going to be the ones that we're going to look at. And you could just have the one criteria for the second one here. If the only thing you're testing is the financial statements, you could simply put it in once. And that's probably be a good idea for here. But if you did have different ones, things you were testing, you would, for instance, you might test the financial statements, you might test the journal entries, you might test other things. Okay, so what we're going to do here is going back to our, oops, no. Here, I'm going to put in the specific criteria. So for what does not meet, I'm going to put in this one, student makes 3 or more errors. Weird looking. It's really weird looking. Why is it doing that? Okay, new plan. I'm going to copy this into Notepad. Cutting and pasting into Excel is a kind of a pain. It's not really made for word processing. So okay, let's try this again. Still doing it. Well, I don't know why I said that. Well, I'll just leave it. Our life's this long, so let's not get too crazy. Okay, so this is that one. Let's go to the next one. Let's do a well, that one went in fine. So I'm using the specific standards. Again, there is no, right or wrong one. And as far as what when we're using here, we'll just say problem X. And we'll say financial statements. Because we're going to use the same criteria for all of these. Okay. So these are the more detailed ones. This is bugging me. Why is that? I'm gonna try something here. Okay, now that that is formatted correctly. CF. Hey. Isn't this fun watching me learn how to use Excel? Okay. So we have our so we have our criteria now. And this is the specific criteria, and these can be quite long, but in this case, student makes 3 or more errors, student makes 2 more errors, they get, and so we can actually go through and discount the errors and put what they do in the rubric. Okay, so going back to here, you're probably going to need to copy this down. So you're going to go through each of these, and as you get the students, as you go through their completed assignment, you're going to give them a 1, 2, or 3, whatever. This is the showing you how to do it. And as you go through here, you'll put in, so the student 1, they did okay, maybe they did good with the income statements, so maybe they get a 3. Maybe they get a 2 here, 3 here, 1 here. Okay. So as you go through each student, student 1, student 2, student 3, all that kind of stuff, as you go through here, you're just going to put these in, and over here they're going to tally up, what they, and it's not working either. I gotta correct this one. This is embarrassing. It should be F. Oh, I know. I know. Okay, and up here, count F. I'll fix this. And this one down here, I'll put in one more student so that we can get a kind of see how it works here. 1, 3. Okay, now we should get some numbers. Okay, so we have meets or exceeds, we have these two, and we have these are at ones. So half of them come in. Now, one thing I want to make clear, and that is that don't worry too much about the difference between these two. Meets and exceeds expectations, because we count those the same as far as the overall for how we do our how we evaluate our performance. Basically, at the graduate level, it should be 90%. We would look for 90% or more for meets or exceeds, and at the undergraduate level, it's 70. But again, so for instance, trying to move students from meets to exceeds isn't going to do anything for this rubric. They're exactly the same. Moving someone from does not meet up to meets is going to help, but it's not going to um, uh, it will help. It'll help work for the overall if you move them from does not meet to meets. Moving them from meets to exceeds, well, that's not a bad goal. It doesn't really help too much. And if you think about the mission statement of the school, that we're kind of serving those students that may not have a chance at other places, and who are we going to focus on? Obviously, focusing on those that do not meet is the one that we want to go with. Those are ones we want to focus on trying to move up. Not that we don't want people to exceed expectations, but it's not as big of a deal. And because of that, I wouldn't worry too much about, gee, how do we, is this meets, is this exceeds? It probably doesn't matter too much because we count those together. It's a little bit extra information. There's nothing wrong with putting it in, but again, that's not really the focus of these. We're trying to focus on moving these up like that. So anyway, so we go through and fill this in. I would keep all the artifacts, whatever problem X was. I'd go through and fill the rest of them in. And actually, these formulas were, well, no, I still got to do the column. We got to fix the columns on them. But anyway, this is going to give us a breakdown of it, and this is what we're going to kind of look for, and then we'll make recommendations based on whatever this data comes out to be. So this is kind of how we're going to do it, and this would be the rubric, you know, and the nice thing is about this is that we can print this out once you get it done. You know, you can print it out on one page. You can print this out on one page. These can be pretty detailed depending on your department. You guys, I'm sure, kind of know that. Some of the departments have many rows going in here. And eventually, I'm going to be putting in the goals, the overall goals, and this is just for kind of tying it all together, the overall goals for the department and showing how those tie into the student learning objectives. So anyway, so this is how we make up the rubrics. And again, we can, you know, you can change these around. You can do what you need to do to make these into whatever you're going to test. So if you have a new class, if you already have done this several times, or if you already have the rubric, go ahead and use it. And even if you use the old rubric, that's fine. But we do have these new rubrics coming out, and if you're doing a new class, you know, find something that you can use for these student learning objectives, something that you can use to actually get numbers for and put them in. This is accounting 403. This is we don't assess this class. We should, but we don't. So anyway, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and, you know, my name's Mark Taylor, and I'll put all that information on the sheet. But anyway, so this is how we do it. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And, you know, if you want to walk through something, putting your stuff in, that's fine too. Is pull up your syllabus and see what objectives you want. We'll cut and paste those into whatever rubric you need, and you know, figure out how you're gonna test it. And as far as these detailed assessment criteria, these are the ones that actually take some time. You can just put in, you know, working whatever it is and refine these later. There's nothing wrong with getting ones to get you started. And if you want to meet with people and try to get these more refined, as too, but just the generic ones. And again, don't worry about that it's judgmental, you know, that we're using judgment rather than hard. It's all judgment. And as a professional instructor, you know, you've been around the block and you know what does not meet looks like, you know what meets looks like, and you know what exceptional looks like. So don't worry too much that it, you know, about what goes into these. Also, if you're wondering why I don't spend a lot of these can take up lots of space. These can take up, you know, many lines, and that's why I didn't put them over here in the first one, because you'd often find you also have a spreadsheet that is so tiny that you can't read anything if you were to print it out. And that's why I don't put them up here. But also because once you do go through one or two of these and you go, okay, they need to, you know, if they don't have any errors, they get a 3. If they have 1 or 2, they get a 2. And if they have more than 3, they get a 1. It doesn't take long to you're not even looking at those. You're just going to look at the financial statement. It's going to, you know, and you're going to put them in. You're not really going to keep going back to this page every time and see what to put in. Okay, again, I'll put my my contact information and all that. Also, I'll put that in the handout that's going to be sent out. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Okay, well, happy assessing. And again, just no, not that. Just you know, these are not due. I mean, don't think that you have to have these in by this week or next week or whatever. If you can get them in by the time we start around the next semester, that's fine. And again, as long as if you keep all the completed student assignments, you should be fine. We can always build a rubric after. You know, if you know what assignments you're going to do and keep them in a file or, you know, PDF or whatever it is, As long as we have that data, we have the artifacts, we're fine. You know, if we don't have them, then we're not fine. But if we, so we just make sure that at the end of the semester that we keep all those things together someplace where we can access them. And even after you do the assessment, don't throw them out. Don't delete them. Don't throw them out. Keep them, and we will put those into a file for artifacts. And again, this is one of those things that we got dinged on. So this is one of those things that we're going to focus on is to keep these artifacts so that when someone asks for them, we can say, here they are, and we're behaving ourselves. Okay. Hopefully talk to some of you later. I'm still here. Okay, I'm gonna end it for all, which is just me.